today's topic is more cybersecurity on every edge. So go through the all organizations cycle and where's cybersecurity in every point of that. Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much all the possibilities that you probably will do these days cybersecurity. So what we actually see, because Fortinet is more in the worry removing business, that when you have those cybersecurity risk management issues, you want to have the technology there. And we tend to have multiple different options, so not just firewalls, but a lot of other things. So I wanted to cover that. I haven't done that really while being at Fortinet. Even I've been in your event since 2016, so every year.
Yeah, so nice. Yeah, as you mentioned in Lithuania, Fortinet firewalls are quite popular ones, and yeah, I'm willing to hear as I believe people what do you have more in your products line. So the screen is yours.
It's kind of a long story to be told, like how we ended up here. But the main thing has been basically our vision since the beginning of Fortinet when we started the company over 20 years ago. We really want to make the digital world possible in that way that the cybersecurity is kind of part of it, but it's kind of invisible part of the security scale. So when you have fluent cybersecurity implementation, the end user won't know about it, but there can be the NOC and SOC functions that are very fluent and functional, easy to manage, easy to implement, easy to update, and you can, of course, extend your servings, what you do there. Also, there's the mission kind of approach from the company, how we approach, how we do different products and how we do different implementations. Currently, we have multiple hundreds of products, we can say at the moment, that we do for certain companies. We don't publicly sell everything that we do, but we actually develop a lot of the background and back-end systems that are being used, for example, in the public cloud, mentioned in Lauri's presentation as well. We want to make sure that people, devices, and the data actually is secure everywhere that you might have that. And these days, it's not very clear where you actually end up putting the data and how you're going to handle the data in a motion. So that's why we have a lot of solutions that are currently well recognized by the Gartner. And even yesterday, there was the publishing of WAN Edge Infrastructure Gartner report. I will actually show that in a few moments, so you understand where we are going with the WAN Edge solutions. I joined Fortinet in 2016, and or actually I joined 2018 to Fortinet, but 2016 I saw the first WAN Edge implementations that are basically SD-WAN implementations. We are recognized there, and we are recognized in multiple different areas that Gartner is actually measuring. Gartner doesn't really look how good you are technology, but as a technology, but how many places you've been actually implemented. What drives us at the moment in the cybersecurity world and in the market is that we do a lot of innovation. We don't really buy that many companies. We like to do the innovation in-house. And if we ever purchase any company, we purchase companies that are in the startup phase. So we don't like to purchase mature companies because we want to do, let's say, the code implementation and code development for all the products the same way. So we are currently the top innovator in the cybersecurity world. And the basic thing is that whoever can learn quickest and implement the latest things quickest will win in long term. And we are a really good example of such company from last 20 years. So we have the most of third-party validations, and we are the most recognized next-generation firewall player in the market. Even though we didn't invent next-generation firewalling as a term, but we are the most recognized player in that game, and especially in this market area. Gartner is measuring, and this is more about like why should you care part, but yeah, Gartner actually cares that we do pretty good job as an next-generation firewall, but also in the SD-WAN side. That's the right side picture is actually from 2020, and yesterday it was released for 2021, and we are the clear leader. We don't necessarily have the most complete because there's a lot of brochureware out there that we have seen as well. This is basically this is according to the implementations that we have done towards the customer scene. So now to the real topic. So where the cybersecurity is going when we are talking about all the edges. There's the endpoint security. Now when we all work remotely, mostly, endpoint security, that's important. That's where we started in early 2000s. Then we went to network security, data center security, and now we're talking about cloud security, doing edge security and doing zero trust access and zero trust network access. And this is all around identity-based security solutions that are then enhanced with the threat intelligence services that are the most widely used in our product scene. We are the starting member of Cyber Threat Alliance, and the idea back then was that we tie together Cisco, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, all the security vendors, all the major security vendors, that way that we can exchange information between the companies, and we have been really successful with that. Now we work together with Interpol and all the local cybersecurity centers of every EU country and every country in the world that are willing to go that way. So that actually creates a very powerful background information that we can use to recognize bad stuff when it happens, no matter where it actually happens. It's really important to understand that also, for example, the network speed, no matter is it on-prem or off-prem, meaning cloud networks, those speeds have got faster. And cybersecurity solutions need to adapt to that. If you have legacy solution, they can't really keep up. And now, especially when you don't have enough people to do cybersecurity as, let's say, manual labor, you need to automate that. And that's why there's the AI ops, so artificial intelligence operations. Now, when there's something bad happening, you take the action automatically. We have 11-year-old AI implementation at Fortinet. Now we call it FortiAI. It has been working in FortiGuard Labs for 11 years. So now we are actually selling it out as virtual security analyst. So if you want to have your SOC analyst that is actually AI, we do that thing as well. And no matter how you actually look at this, there are so many different places, so many different edges where you need to do cybersecurity. This is not enough anymore that you do just campus and branch and maybe edge locations, but there are multiple edges where you need to do it. And what we see here, especially in Finnish market, the 5G has enabled a lot of new implementations that haven't been available before, and doing security over the 5G connections at the 5G network and the 5G edges, that's kind of the growing market. And we see that through Nokia and through Ericsson, for example. And then the operational technology edge, that's true as well. So then there's home edge, there's your identity edge, there's your device edge, there's the cloud edge, there's the internet edge that has been there for ages, and data center edge. And then there's the edge computing that actually comes through the SASE implementation. There are multiple different things that we need to consider, especially on the endpoint side. So how you take care of the endpoint security? And the answer has been since 2009, when Google came out with that Beyond Corp implementation, is zero trust. So you basically trust no one. Once you start doing trust, you trust only for a moment, and you do continuous context-based evaluation of the connection. So you don't do authentication, authorization, and accounting once, but you do it all the time. So you basically check all the time the context of the connection, context of the use case, what's the situation with the endpoints, what's the situation with the connectivity, what's the situation with the identity using the solution, and that's here. So there's basically the network access, and then there's the user-based security, and then there's the endpoint security that we need to cover. And there has been evolution as well. And it's kind of hard to imagine that one vendor is playing in all of these fields, but we tend to do that. And we are the only one in the world that is actually going this path, that we play in all of the fields and we do all of these technical solutions. What is very dear and near to my heart is the cloud security. This is what I do at Fortinet. I'm the principal system engineer for the cloud security solutions and application security solutions. And it's mostly about risk management. So you want to do it right. And all of our active customers in cloud environment have realized that the cloud native tools are not good enough. They are very, very basic and they don't take you that far. And if you want to do security the same way in your data center, like mentioned in the previous presentation, that all of the customers generally take the path that they do hybrid model. They have on-premise data center, and then they have cloud, and then they have multi-cloud. And doing security in all of those places in the same way, with the same technology that is producing the same logs and same data, it means that you go with us. We are currently the only one doing that in that way, not doing just a point solution. And if you have already selected something else, it doesn't really matter, because we do integration with hundreds of other vendors, and we involve those there. We have open ecosystem for this. So we only want to do the adaptive cloud security. There's probably solution from our end. So it doesn't really matter where you see the kill chain being executed. Is it the cloud? Is it on-prem? Is it your home network? Is it maybe in your working computer or your work computer? It's our task is to prevent this from happening as early stage as possible, and then give very direct analytics what has happened, so you can roll back from whatever the situation was. And this is important. The kill chain has been referred for at least 10 years in all the cybersecurity presentations. And this is important to understand, that all cybersecurity companies are providing their solutions to this, but many of them are point solutions. And what we are playing here is to go for complete solution. And the completeness of solution is coming from the idea that we do development of our own processors, our own chipsets. We go for, even from the hardware all the way through the software to the UIs, that way that it's very usable. And you see all these other successful companies like Apple and Tesla, they do the same thing. And we've been in this role for 20 years. We started very early on to do our own ASICs, so we can provide good value for the end customer. So the products are rightly priced. So we go for the pricing that way, what it actually does cost for us to produce those solutions. We don't come up with some crazy value that is setting the prices, but it's always the right price for the market, and the performance is always the top-notch performance. This is the idea what we are going for. And even there's Apple here, they are using our innovations about the ARM processors. So we've been innovating in that area where we see that Apple is actually going towards the solutions that we do. Most of the time there are gaps in the cybersecurity implementation. So you don't really want to have those gaps in your system. You want to have those gaps removed. And the idea then is that there's interoperability with all the cybersecurity implementations that you actually do. And this is kind of the key thing that we do. I saw cybersecurity fabric term in 2014 in Fortinet presentations when I hadn't really been working with Fortinet products that much. And I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting that we do all the areas that are relevant for cybersecurity, where you might need some tooling to help you out and automate security. And all of those are interconnected to each other, enabling NOC and SOC functions, plus open ecosystem. And this was already messaging very early on in Fortinet messaging. And it was really hard to believe for those people that had been around for a long time, seeing other vendors doing similar kind of claims and never really going beyond the brochureware. So Fortinet was the first one to actually do the implementation. And this has been very fantastic. And for example, in Lithuanian market, there are multiple different success stories that are already utilizing this security fabric. You can cover with the same solutions your on-prem and your off-prem and your endpoints, and it works the same way. So you only need to do the training investment once. When people know how to do Fortinet stuff, they can do the same stuff in the cloud, and they can do that in on-prem in a similar way. where the security effectiveness is really coming from, that cybersecurity information that we are gathering from all the devices that we have out there in the field. We have over 100 trillion different points where we are getting the information from, which is a crazy number already as such. And we get like over 100 billion events to FortiGuard Labs, which we are using to recognize what's going on in different playing fields, in the endpoints and in the cloud and in the network and in the email security, in the API security, application security. Plus, we get all the feeds from the other vendors. Like, for example, Cisco Talos is feeding us. We are feeding Cisco. Same thing with Palo Alto Network, same thing with Checkpoint. So we are sharing the information. So when we find something, we share this information with other vendors. And when other vendors find something, we get that information. So we want to play together. Only way to greater success in the cybersecurity field is to work together. That's the main thing. There are a few areas that I will go quickly through. One is the security-driven networking. Idea there is to cover all the edges and have solutions in hardware and in software in place for all the use cases. So what makes us very different in this playing field is that when we have firewalls, if they are hardware firewalls or software firewalls, they always have the same features and very simple licensing seen over there. So it makes things very fluent. But what makes us very, very different is that we do our LAN products, we do switches, we do Wi-Fi, and we have switch and Wi-Fi controller built into our firewalls. And we have no licensing for that. It's only dependent on the size of the device, how many APs and how many switches one FortiGate can, for example, handle. Then we do a thing called Xtender that enables 4G, 5G connectivity to your sites. So it's kind of extension to FortiGates. Plus, then there are multiple other things, like, for example, SASE. We've been now doing SASE for 1 year, and now we have rather good implementation of that. I will cover that in a couple of slides. What this actually makes up is that we want to protect all the edges. We have solutions for the edges. They will work in all those environments that our customers have. No matter is it the operational technology side, or is it just data center, or is it in public cloud, the same solutions work the same way. There are just specific products built for those areas. And one example that what we've been doing as a visual vision is SASE. And in SASE, the idea is that we provide cloud service where you have next generation firewalling and you have network as a service, meaning that there's an interconnection between all the sites and services that you might use. So your end users are not connecting their VPN to your site, but there is a hidden background connection that will connect those users into SASE environment. This is very cool implementation. We utilize here as a backend Equinix backend. So we are not using public clouds because we want to guarantee the performance, the connectivity, and availability of those solutions. And we did the selection to go with Equinix is to do as many POPs as required. So points of presence are selected strategically over the world. Quality, not for quantity in those cases. So there will be implementation of SASE POP in Finland and Stockholm, for example. So there's going to be nearby implementations of those soon. But globally, it makes sense to do. Is when we do our own processors, so content processor 9 and network processor 7, for example, they enhance the hardware solutions. When you need speed, we can provide speed. We had the first hyperscale data center firewall in the market, and that's very cool. So you basically get speed. So you get very good performance for the VPN connectivity, plus then you have very good connectivity for firewalling, so meaning performance, connections per second, and throughput. So this is very cool. It's very efficient, so low power consumption, because we do our custom CPUs. They don't consume as much as power like Intel, for example. So we go with the ARM architecture and our own ASICs, really, so they have very low power consumption. Very cool products as themselves. Zero trust access. So understanding who's in your network, what they are doing, all the devices, what's going on. Big thing here is that going from VPN to zero trust access is basically converting the VPN connectivity into access proxy type of implementations. So there's the continuous trust check what is going on in your environment. And there's, of course, the access specific applications that you can define. So what group you really belong to defines what kind of services you can use without opening any VPN connectivity. All connectivity is tunneled with TLS tunneling. So there are tunnels and it's secured, but we can use multiple different points here to hop through. We have endpoint security solutions, NAC solutions, multi-factor authentication solutions, and then multi-use authentication solutions, which is known as for the authenticator. This is fitting into our zero trust vision, where we take care of the user devices and their identities, the contextual based access control, the session segmentation, different proxy locations that you can use to hop through quicker paths to your applications and safer paths to your applications, and then for application access. It's very complete vision, and we already have implementations of this in our latest FortiOS 7 in the firewall side, plus all the other solutions around it, like our ADC and our web application firewalls. Well, this is what I do. I do security for any application, any environment that goes to cloud. And there are basically three different things. There's the network. So you still have networks in clouds. That's true. If somebody has told you something else, then that's probably a lie. There's the platform. You have misconfigurations. That's a very human thing to do. So take those out, keep your containers secure. We have container security, the platform security, and of course, these different SaaS application security implementations, plus the applications, email security, web application security, API security, application publishing security, basically application access implementation locally and globally. So meaning ADC and global load balancing solutions over there. And this goes again, network, platform, and application. There are different solutions in place. Plus, on top of this, we work together with all the major public clouds. So we help them to implement their own native cybersecurity solutions. Plus, we are offering our own that can be used on the side of the native ones, or they can replace the native ones. And this is kind of very unique approach as well. This is where we have had the most success out of these cybersecurity vendors in our playing field that we have seen, because we go up and beyond with the implementations, how they are made in the cloud. We don't want to push aside the native solutions. We want to just give options. So if you're happy with low level and low functioning solution, that's fine. But once you have the moment that you need to go from cloud level security to enterprise level security, you're free to do so. So we are offering that option as well. And then the management. When you have those solutions, you want to have good management. There's a fabric management center, meaning that you can go the traditional path. So when you do, for example, your endpoint security, or you can go towards the extended detection and response, so automate functionalities for your NOC and SOC teams. So you can have lean automated teams, and that's very helpful. Or if you have a lot of employees that are able to do all the things that you could also automate, you're free to do so as well. So there are those options that you can choose from. There's the endpoint solutions. There's the FortiXDR and EDR. There's the breach prevention. So we do honeypots and we do sandboxing and we do the artificial intelligence. And then there's the incident response side, where we have those solutions in place. So if you want to have like fluency in this process, you can go from very basic to very mature SOC implementation in just a couple of moments. This is very, very straightforward process. There's possibility for you to build your company SOC maturity from the basic to mature by selecting those products and building those competencies for those products. And by the way, all the training that we are providing is for free. So anyone can go to training.fortinet.com and train yourself with these solutions for free. There's all the theory and the labs are available through that. We don't charge for that anymore. If you want to do the certificates, there will be a fee, but all the training is now for free. We took that approach as well. It's helpful. So when you have time, if you have time, then you're free to train yourself. Even these might sound like very complex ideas. They are not very complex ideas. It takes a couple of days of your time, and then you can master, for example, CM or SOAR implementations, for example, or maybe deception, doing honeypots. So yeah, we do all the time new releases of different products. So you can pick and choose your path, how you want to approach this. There is a couple of other things that I want to mention. So when you want to do your NOC properly, we have the solution through FortiManager, through our cloud solutions, or through our FortiMonitor, which you can pick and choose where you go from. So if you want to have, again, the maturity implement there, you can go from level 1 to level 3 by implementing different solutions. So we have these roadmaps. If you want to go for the path of development, you can do it little by little, but in a long term, you can end up from level 1 to level 3 almost in no time when you start doing those implementations. What we call as Fabric Management Center means that you can have self-healing network, self-healing implementations of your security solutions in place, and meaning that when you have those unfortunate events that something is down in your network, you can actually have that self-healed by the Fabric Management Center that we have now implemented. One thing that I'm not going to go that deep since the previous presentations were kind of on overtime. So I'm just going to brief this a little bit. So the cybersecurity platform that we are running in our data centers is FortiGuard Security Services. And this is what we are feeding to our devices, feeding to the NOC and SOC implementations. Any Fortinet device that is getting security updates, it's coming from here. And the idea is that we are giving real-time information of what's happening in the world. So when we get those weak signals that something new is happening, we can already reprogram the environments that are existing out there in the wild to take that kind of new attacks that we have probably seen, that these weak signals are kind of signs of. One thing that makes us very different and what makes cybersecurity very different is that we do integration. So whatever your implementation is, we are not jealous that you have other vendors. We take other vendors with us. The biggest power in this business is to work together. So we build these fabric connections. So whatever you have surrounding our technical solutions, we will most probably work together with those technical solutions. And according to different areas, from the network to the cloud to AI-driven, we have selected vendors that we work together, plus then we have many, many more on top of this. Like I said in the beginning, when we purchase something, we purchase startup companies and then we rename them as our solutions. But in many of the occasions, we actually redo the whole product so it will be done the Fortinet way. So here are a couple of examples like EDR and CM. We purchased 2017 Axelops as a CM solution, and now it's very, very well taken for the CM product in many of the markets where we operate. So a lot of companies actually use that for MSSP usage. As a summary, we do a lot of things. We do on many things. So we have point products, but you can make all of these work together. So you can tailor make your own requirements. We don't want to be the limiting factor, whatever you do. We want to enable you to do more in cybersecurity and with our solutions, whatever your requirements might be. So the worst thing that might happen is that somebody purchased something from us and then it's limiting them from doing the thing that they want. So digital security, wherever you might need it, this is the goal that we do. And we work together with Bluebridge in Lithuanian market. Bluebridge is the partner that enables you to do all of these things. We enable Bluebridge to provide those services and capabilities to you. We never sell anything directly to end customer. We always work through the channel. So we always want to be the trusted partner to our partners and to our partners, customers. That's what we want to do. So very long story short, I could spend on this much more, and that's why we have the chat channel on the background. So I will be hanging around there for about half an hour after this presentation, so you can come and ask me questions and challenge the ideas that we have.
Yes. So Andrew, thank you, Timo, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now some questions from my side, and you mentioned that you do a lot of things. You do plenty of things, which looks like, and but one thought came to my mind. What we can see that we talk a lot about the centralizing management consoles and how to make how to have one console with which you can manage all of your security things. How do you think, what kind of risks this bring when you have just one super centralized management tool?
The biggest risk there is that if there's misunderstanding over the APIs that are being used to build that kind of a one console that is doing everything. I've been in the cybersecurity business for 20, 40 years, and I've seen many of these one console promises in the market, but many times when you have multiple different vendors in that, if something changes along the way, it might be that not all the information is presented correctly. And that's why working together in this cybersecurity vendor field is so, so important. So if all the vendors are just me, and they have big egos and they go and talk bad stuff about other vendors behind their backs and do all that stuff, it leads to that point that one console will never, ever happen. But now what we have seen, for example, in the Finnish market and Finnish customers that do these one console implementations with us or with other companies, they are quite happy because they can test what is supposed to be seen. But you can really never, ever trust to your screen. You need to always, like I was told by my manager about 22 years ago, that don't worry about any of those things that you see in the screen, but always worry about that stuff that you don't. So there's always kind of open gap for the doubts that are you really certain about it? Our work and our task here is to make sure that you can trust what we are showing you in those one screens that we are providing, that's true, but also with all those hundreds of other company integrations that we do, we work all the time in the background that information would be true as well. So we try to keep up with everybody, but this is like, there's a lot of things happening in the digitalized world.
Sure, like the world is moving very fast.
Yes, faster than we can understand.
True. Talking about moving, as you mentioned, like Fortinet has like plenty of products. So from your opinion, what would be the trend and what would be the most popular products for the next years, for the upcoming year?
SASE. SASE as an implementation is going to be one of those most popular things, but we can see also that SD-WAN is getting more and more popular still in our area. So SD-WAN is driving the business, but also SASE is going to be the one. So secure access service edge, that's going to be the biggest thing by 2024.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. And as you mentioned, the audience and people can meet you in some virtual room after 40 minutes, I think. So have a great day and see you next year.
See you next year. Bye.